Mō te whānau apanui tēnei tūnei. Engari, mō ngā kōrero, mō ngā Tokotoru nei, mō taua, kei te waiho ke e au, e nā kōrero mō oku nei tuakana rangatira kei te kāinga, ana kei tūkaki. Mō rātau ki rai hei kōrero mō ena. Oku nei kōrero, e hihe ana au ki te kōrero mai kia koutou, mō te wharerene, mō te tipuna, mō rātau mā, ngā koroa ko wehe wehe atu, kei te mihi atu kia rātau, e moi mai rā, i runga i te maunga nei, moi mai koutou, moi mai. Nā taonga rā rātau i tuku mai kia koutou kia tātau hoki rā, kei te mihi atu, kei te mihi atu. E tino ātāhu e nā taonga. Engari mākutuna hei kōrero mō hena. Firstly, I'm not going to attempt to speak the whole lot in Māori, because I've lived in areas where I haven't had that opportunity of using my reo all the time. So I'll speak in English. We were talking, especially to this fellow sitting up here, e noho mai nei, a tae Apirana. I'm a user of what he left behind. And I'm a user also, I'm trying to find out much about some of the things he proposed as challenges for us. I used to be a mokopuna. I don't think I can claim that anymore. And that's what they always said, what they left this the taonga for us were for the mokopuna. And I always wondered, where are these things and what are they about? Anyhow, I was brought up at the kaha, at Maungaro actually, born in a raupo house up the Kereu River. And of course when we had to go, nearly drowned in the stream when I was young apparently, porohia nai. We went out to the coast so that we could go to school. I suppose so that we could be civilized. And the Kereu, of course, was a very, very interesting awa. And my tupuna, Kaiaio, he had his kumara patch, he was famous for that, and that's his younger brother that some of you are sitting under over there, Tamahai, who came around and annoyed these fellas up on the pahi at one stage. A pahu mai rātau ka o mai. Is that right, Gary?
Yes.
Yeah. He showed him the brown eye and my tupuna took off. Didn't want to do no more with him. So I went over and had a yarn with Putan. But anyhow, let's get back to the subject. What I want to talk about is this house, and I know we haven't got a great deal of time to do that. This is one of the treasures of New Zealand. Believe me. You hear our Iranui, which also is a beautiful house, Te Hauki Tūranga, being talked about all the time, eh? But remember, Te Hauki Tūranga is in a very public situation and it's had a lot of publicity. But at the same time, this is equal to Te Hauki Tūranga, but it's different. And I hope I can sort of demonstrate to you how different it is, in actual fact, and how modern it is, but you wouldn't think so looking around, eh? I came into contact with this house in 1980-70.
Yeah.
That's about 27 years ago now. And the reason for that was that it was due to have its centennial in 1988. At that time, I had started working with, well, not so much working, I was on a committee with Api Mauwika, who was our chairman at that time, of the Historic Places Trust, New Zealand Historic Places Trust in Wellington. And because this was having its centennial, I was approached particularly by Marie Collier. Is she here today?
She is
Kei whewhoi?
in the kitchen.
That's where I would expect her to be too. Anyhow, she had arranged a PB scheme, etc. And would I come and oversee or help them do the veranda so that we could get it ready for its kuritau. We came and started the work. My son Dean, who is sitting over there, he was training as a conservator in Australia. And he and, what's that other name? Nick Tupara from Gisborne. And they had a couple of Aussie girls with them, eh? Was that the time? They were trainees. They were training as conservatives. Yeah, never mind. But anyhow, they were training as conservatives, and it was the trust and the committee there. We were the first committee in the Historic Places Trust. Started in about 1974. Please excuse my up here, it sort of loses track sometimes. And our committee started off with, I don't know, it was a person by the name of Stackpole. He was the chairman of the New Zealand Historic Places Trust. Shifted to Roger Duff, who was a well-known archaeologist who did a lot of the work on Wairoa Bar, and then it shifted to Api. And Api became our first chairman, Māori chairman. Tipene came on, Pat Park from home came on, one or two others. And we started to develop the policies for the trust as to how it might sort of work with iwi in particular, to start looking at the kinds of things that they would want to keep as national treasures or as treasures for themselves. Okay? And we started to form those policies back then. We had a budget of $5,000. Wicked, eh? But anyhow, talk's cheap. And we were able to start there and then to develop a program of work. And of course, we immediately, with Api there leading us, were able to focus on particularly these kinds of places. For Pākehās, this is a wonderful place because it's got decorative features, it's got lovely paintings, etc., etc. For Api, he said no. He said a lot of our places have nothing in them, but they're still treasures because it's the people who are the treasure, and the memories go with the people. So, you know, it was quite an interesting sort of process. Anyhow, we'll get past this. So we started to develop policies for this, and this is where I came into contact with Māori, and I think at that stage I wasn't working for them, we just did it because I wanted to do it. The other thing is I started to find out quite a lot more about this tipuna. The first I heard about this tipuna was with Pine Taiapa in the 1960s. We came up as a bunch of specialist teachers to work with the Ngāti Pro people. You people have got a huge legacy that I'm not sure that you know about. And one of those legacies is that your old people like Pine, Paul Weka, and all of those ones, you know, the Reedies, of course, just Moi, the whole lot of them had sort of the kind of expertise that you still demonstrate today, like right now, in haka, in carving, in tukutuku, in painting, in waiata. Those were absolutely powerfully strong still in 1960 when I first came here as a trainee in that bunch of people. And we worked around, we were a bunch of people. Included in that bunch was Mere Kururangi, you know her? Yes. Mere, Mihiata Fairley. The Fairleys, I think, from Tokotoru, eh? Right. She was one of the women. There was one from the south, she was a teacher. There was myself, there was Parametia, Ralph Hortere, Muru Walters, Sandy Ad said later on. We all came as a bunch to be taught by Māori Pro about Māori arts and crafts, because it was still very, very strong here in those years. Tui Ngāwai was still alive at that time, and I had the good fortune to meet him. So the idea of this training through the education department was to get it out into the schools, because the director at the time, Dr. Beebe, he was very keen that some of, that Māori culture be taught in the schools. Don't believe that the language was left out. It wasn't. What happened with the language was, your people said, no, we don't want that taught in the schools. You've heard contrary to that, haven't you? No. You know why? Because at that stage, this is the early 1960s, these areas still had lots of people living in them, lots of people still doing things in them, and lots of people still talking the reo. So therefore, why would you want to teach that? And it was the old people who said, no, Mr. Beebe, because he told me this himself. My wife's brother was married to his daughter. You see how they whakapapa, it's just like ours. So you get to know people, eh? Anyhow, that's okay. So they had to wait until the old Kroa here, he mate the Kroa nei, and that's when they started. You see, he mate here when?
1950.
I'm talking 1960, exactly 1960. So we came up here to Ruatoria, and we were taught by these people Māori arts and crafts, because the Department of Education was going to put out a main curriculum book which was called The Arts of the Māori. Have you seen that in the schools? No. It's probably not there anymore. And then with that there were a whole lot of other booklets that went with it. Anyhow, to go back to it, in 1960 we launched that book here, and it was The Arts of the Māori, and that was the first time any Māori arts had become part of the education school curriculum. It started then. So we came here and we were taught by the experts, haka and all of these, tukutuku, we were here for I think 2 weeks. And then we went back to use those in the schools, trial them, and see if we could in actual fact, get teachers interested in them and children. Of course, everybody was interested. And then we started to look at how else can we spread, get this working in schools, and then we started to look at school committees. Some schools didn't, most schools in New Zealand didn't have one Māori on their committees, eh? It's things like that, those little things. So we had to encourage all of that sort of thing. Anyhow, get through there. That's where I came into contact with Pene. Pene was an incredible person. And of course, this was his incredible man here. Pene was his right-hand man. And Pene, talking to Pene, he used to get annoyed. He said one of the most annoying times he had with Apirana Ngata was when Apirana brought him back from overseas to carry on carving or helping John, his brother, finish ruakapanga in Hauiti. So you see, talking about the Tokotoru still comes back to that, eh? Yeah. And Pene had to come back from overseas. He was a captain in the army. He was having a good time. He said he didn't want to come back. I don't feel talking, mate. But he had to come back because the old fella said, "Hoki mate." And he wouldn't let John go away. He wouldn't let John go overseas. John was real hoha, but this fella here wouldn't let him go. Anyhow, what I'm saying is, tōna matenga, that's when the education department people were able to come in and start to look at how Māori arts and crafts and all the other things could be developed in the national school curriculum throughout New Zealand. So you people have got a huge legacy there. Your growers, were the ones who initiated all of that, started it, supported it, backed it up. Mind you, there were one or two questions, like when we had a meeting, a couple got up and said, "Oh, are you fellas going to sell this stuff?" You know? Typically Ngāti Pro question. And of course they were told no, that's for the children. And of course immediately it got its support, and of course that's what we're talking about in this place.